Welcome back for another scenario of the Pathfinder Adventure Card Game. We are working in the Dragon's Demand story. We are in Adventure 1, Welcome to Belham, getting ready to start Scenario 1B, the Blood Vow. So basically in this one, there's a kobold tribe that we're trying to investigate and get out of the area. Our dangers will be a kobold horde, poison dart trap. The villain and henchmen that are already in our locations will be a kobold sorcerer, champion, inferno trap, and then a reference back to our kobold hordes. If we succeed at this, each character will get a hero point, and one character will get a loot ally, the riding allosaurs. Also during the scenario, when we defeat a kobold storybane, we get to summon and encounter an ally. If we acquire it, we may display it next to the scenario. We get to add a d4 to diplomacy checks against kobold monsters for each of these for each of these displayed allies. Before you encounter the kobold champion, each character summons and encounters the storybane ancient skeleton. Since we did acquire a hero point last adventure, for Mary, we have put them in a protective sleeve. We have upgraded her wisdom to a d6 plus 1. So we are hurting in a lot of these stats. And for Sione, we have given her a dexterity of plus 1. For our locations, into the cave. At this location, when you fail a check to defeat a bane, suffer the scourge dazed. We saw that in the last adventure. To close, summon and defeat the danger. We'll take a look at that here shortly. And when closed, no effect. The cell location. You cannot move unless you either bury an ally or succeed at a strength or disable 6-up check. To close or to guard, either bury an ally or succeed at a strength or disable 6-up check. And when closed, you may draw a new ally. We're going to have Sione start there, and hopefully she can get through that on her own. At the lair, we're having a Mary start here. Difficulty to defeat storybanes is increased by 2. To close or guard, succeed at a strength or melee 5-up check. This is still a level 1 adventure, and when closed, no effect. And the last location is the Twisting Passages. At this location, you cannot move unless you succeed at an intelligence or knowledge 6+ check. To close or guard, succeed at a wisdom or survival 5-up check, and when closed, each local character moves to a random other location. So some storybanes we'll be running into here. You have the poison dart trap, dexterity acrobatics of 9, or disable of 7. We're hurting in both of our characters to pass this one. If undefeated, suffer 1d4 plus 1 poison damage, then succeed at a constitution or fortitude 6 check, or suffer the scourge poisoned. We also have a kobold horde, combat of 11 or diplomacy 8 to defeat. If not defeated by at least 4, suffer 1 range combat damage, then shuffle this monster into its location. And then the Ancient Skeleton. Combat would be a 13 to defeat. Immune to cold, mental, and poison, vulnerable to bludgeoning. Before acting, either recharge a divine card or suffer 1 combat damage. So looking at our starting hands, draw 4 cards for our Mary. Needing to find at least 1 weapon. We have our shot glaive, and 2 blessings, and a crowbar. For Sione, we'll get 6 cards. And we need a spell, which we have 2 spells for us: Lightning Touch, Locate Object, 3 allies, and Bracers of Protection. We'll start the turn with a Mary. She'll stay where she's at. Our first blessing coming up. On your non-attack combat check, add 1. We'll go ahead and explore, finding a good omen, needing intelligence, wisdom, arcane, or divine. So we would like to get this, but I'm not prepared to start spending blessings for this, so we have a d6 plus 1 now to try to acquire this. So we have our d6. 4 plus 1 will not get it, so we will remove this card. And look at our hand. We'll use a blessing to explore again. Finding a nice weapon. Strength, acrobats, and melee. That's something we're good at. So that will be a d12 plus 2. Looking for 9. Kind of rolled all screen there, but we had a 4 plus 2, so 6. We're not very good at acquiring things at the moment. And since we've looked at 2 things, we will just draw back up to 4, getting another blessing, and pass the turn. For Sione, advancing the hour. When you heal, you may heal an additional card. And we will have her explore. Finding some magic leather armor. It's always good. Constitution or fortitude check. For her, that would be a d6. So we need to get extremely lucky on this one. And nothing in my hand that I want to throw in to help with that. So rolling a d6. Missing by 1. And there goes magic leather armor disappearing from our sight. Then we will use our troubadour, discard to explore. This exploration on your charisma non-combat and diplomacy non-combat checks, add a d6. So we will take another look here and find a seeking short bow. Needing dexterity, ranged, or stealth of 11. So without blessing this and getting lucky, there's no way we can get it. So another card leaves our grasp. And with that, we will end our turn drawing one more card. Finding a quarterstaff. Back to Amiri, advancing the hour. When you would discard a boon to bless a dexterity or charisma check, you may recharge it instead. And then we will explore the lair. Finding a covering heavy shield. Constitution or fortitude check. That would be a d8 plus 1 for us. So we will see if we can get that. Rolling a d8 plus 1. So we have a total of 8. So we have just found ourselves a nice big shield we can use. So it's a shield offhand magic card. When you suffer acid combat or fire damage, freely reveal to reduce it by 2. That's probably going to come in handy. When a local character suffers combat damage, freely reveal to reduce it by 1. If proficient on your melee combat check, freely recharge to reroll a die. We currently are not proficient with any of these items, but we might want to start. That's an option we have later. Maybe we'll want to become proficient in armor at a later date. And after playing this armor, you may not play a two-handed boon this encounter. So we will put that in our hand. And since now we have 5 cards, we will definitely discard this blessing to examine the top card of your location, then you may explore. So first, examining, we see there's a monster to defeat, immune to fire, vulnerable to cold, after acting suffer d4 minus 1 fire damage, and we will need a 13 to defeat this monster. So that will go back on top of our deck, and then we may explore, and we will. So we'll try to defeat this monster. We will use our shot glaive, which will give us our strength and melee die, which would be a D12. Also give us a D10 and a D4. We may remove the D4 in the electricity trait, but we're not going to. And if proficient, which we are proficient with weapons, may additionally discard to re-roll. So we've got 2 chances to defeat here, just needing a 13 with these 3 dice. So we've got 15, 16, 17, 18 with our bonus. So we have defeated this monster, but after acting, we suffer 1d4 minus 1 fire damage. So hoping for a low number this time. And by low, the dice says 4. So we will take 3 damage from that. 18 with our bonus. So we have defeated this monster, but after acting, we suffer 1d4 minus 1 fire damage. So hoping for a low number this time. And by low, the dice says 4. So we will take 3 damage from that. Since that was fire damage, we will reveal our shield. When we suffer acid combat or fire damage, freely reveal to reduce it by 2. So we'll be taking 1 damage. And for that, we will discard our crowbar. And end our turn by drawing back up to 4 cards, getting a compass. For Sione, no effect for this hour. Take a look at the top card. She found a Bogart. We need to defeat with 4 up for knowledge or perception, then do a combat 10 up. If undefeated, shuffle this monster to a random other location, then move to that location and end your turn. So for knowledge deception, we have a knowledge of a D8. See if our allies can help with any of this. Nope, nothing there. We will have Emiri bless this attempt. So we will have 2 D8s. Needing a 4. And both would have done it. But I haven't been good at acquiring things, so first check is done. Now we have a combat check. So for that, we will use Lightning Touch, which will give us our Arcane plus 2d4. So we need a 10 for this. Eight, 9, 10, 11, and then 12, 13 for a bonus. So monster is defeated. And because of all our bonuses, this spell will be recharged. Then we will end our turn by drawing 1 card, finding a force missile. Back to Emiri's turn for the hour. When you would discard a boon to bless a strength or constitution check, you may recharge it instead. We will go ahead and explore here, finding another shield. Constitution Fortitude check of 6 is needed for this. You suffer acid combat or fire damage, freely reveal to reduce it by 2. To do some comparison, which is how our heavy shield currently is. If proficient on a local combat check, we can discard to reroll a die. And after playing, so it's very much like our heavy shield, except our heavy shield can possibly protect someone close to us. So we will see if we can get this shield with a fortitude check of a D8 +1. So we are not going to succeed with that, and the tower shield goes away. Then we will go ahead and use our compass to discard and explore. Finding an Owlip. Let's see. We can either do a combat 14 or divine 8. Obviously, we'll be fighting this thing. It's immune to mental and poison. The check to defeat does not have the magic trait. This monster is undefeated. And if undefeated, suffer the scourge dazed. Well, we definitely have magic. That's one thing I learned from our last playthrough. So we will get our D12 plus a D10 plus a D4. And take a mighty swing at this guy, looking for an 18. I'm sorry, looking for a 14. So we have 7, 8, 12. With their bonus +2, we make it to 14, so just as close as we could, but we have defeated that monster, and we'll remove it from the area. We have 2 cards in hand. We'll end our turn and draw 2 more cards, finding a horse and our better weapon. So for Sione's turn, advancing the hour. On your check against an outsider card, add a D4. Then we will explore, finding a dire badger, needing combat 11 or perception survival of 6, so we'll be doing combat. If undefeated, shuffle this monster into a random location. If defeated by a combat check, suffer 1d4 combat damage. So this thing wants to fight back whether we beat it up or not. For this badger, we will use a force missile, giving us a d12 plus 2 d4s. Needing an 11. So we've got 9, 10, 11, plus 3 more, plus 2 more, so more than enough to take this guy out. But it's going to do 1d4 combat damage back to us. So once again, we want to roll low. And I need to quit saying that because there's a 4. So now we're going to take 4 damage. So we will reveal this card to reduce it by 1. So we just have 3 more to go through. And then we will use our bodyguard. When a local character suffers damage, recharge to reduce it by 3. So we'll recharge this card and take no further damage. And with that combat, we'll end our turn and draw 2 more cards. And the spell we used will become recharged. So we got a blessing and a firebolt. Always nice to get 1 combat spell. So back to Amiri. No effect from this blessing. We will explore, finding a ghoul, immune to mental and poison. If undefeated, banish an ally or suffer the scourge dazed. We need a 13 to defeat this monster. We will use our great axe, which will get us 2 d12s. And we will add 3 to this die result. Needing a 13. Let's see, we might want to bless this. We will have Sione give us another d12 just in case. So 19, okay, a little bit overkill. We went safe. That might cost us later, but the monster is going for now. And we will end our turn. Already have 4 cards in hand. Moving over to Sione for the hour. When your check against an animal or elemental card, add a d4. Looking at this card, it's an animal. We have an ally here with a wisdom survival check. So that'd be a d6 plus a d4 thanks to our blessing. So we see if we can get us a bird. So we have 8. We now have a crow ally. On a local check to acquire, recharge to add a d6. That's always good. And we can discard to explore. This exploration on your checks to acquire, add a d4. We will go ahead and use our crow to explore again. Finding a razor snare. So dex, acrobatics, disable, or survival. So our dex is a d6, and the other 3 do not exist for us. Undefeated, suffer the scourges entangled and wounded, then end your turn. So we do kind of want to beat this, but we have nothing to assist us in our hand. And Mary has nothing to help with either. We are d6 plus 1. So we get a 7. And we will defeat the snare. And that was close. So we will end our turn and draw a card. So far, things are not going well for us. We need to find these henchmen a little bit quicker. So for Amiri, if you are at a wild location, you may discard a card to explore. We're currently at a wild location. But for our first explore, well, we've got 2 more cards left. But for this one, Burning Tar, Dexterity, Acrobatics, or Constitution, Craft, and Fortitude. So our Fortitude is a D8 plus 1. We need an 8 to pass this. Before acting, each local character suffers 1 fire damage. And if undefeated, suffer 1d4 damage. Let's see, was our shield good against fire? Yes. But after using this, we can't use 2-handed weapons. And both the weapons we have are 2-handed. But we'll go ahead and do this to reduce that fire damage. And then we are attempting a d6 plus 1. For Constitution, we are a d8, 7, or 8. We are getting lucky. Oops. A little bit of foreshadowing. So this is defeated. Thing goes away. And since I accidentally saw the card behind there, I'm just going to go ahead and end my turn. So on to Sioni's turn. Advancing the hour, no effect. Have her go ahead and take a look here. Find a Wounded Wanderer. Wisdom, Craft, Divine, or Survival of 8. So Wisdom is a d6. We don't have a Craft, don't have Divine, and we don't have Survival. Let's see if we have anything that can help. Nope. So we will not be able to defeat this. You may bury a healing boon to defeat this barrier. No healing there. So with not being able to defeat that, so this will get shuffled back into the deck. We will use our guide to discard to explore, and it's exploration. On your checks to close your location, add a d6. So let's see what's on top. We find the Kobold Sorcerer, which is our villain. So before acting, suffer 1 acid damage. The check to defeat does not have the attack trait, and you succeed, re-roll. After acting, suffer an acid damage. So first, we will take 1 acid damage. Which is going to be our quarterstaff. Now we need to make sure we have an attack trait. We are going to use our special ability to discard a card. To use Arcane plus 2d4 plus the card's level. So it's a level 1 card. And add the attack, force, and magic traits so that if we succeed, we will pass this. So we will get a d12 plus 2d4. And nothing to boost that with. So we are looking for a 12. And we have 19 showing, plus another 3 going into that. So we have defeated a villain. So when defeating a villain, we will remove all the remaining cards in that area. So this location is now closed. And that happens automatically. We could attempt to close or guard this location. So we will go ahead and do that. Succeed at a strength or melee 5+1 check. So we need 6 with a d12 plus 1 to temporarily close that location. So we succeeded for that. So we have 2 other locations that are open. So we will take this character plus a random blessing. Shuffle these up. And put them in those 2 locations and then shuffle those locations. So we know the villain is at least at Twisting Passages or in the cave. And when the cell closes, we may draw a new ally. Get our allies off to the side. Shuffle that up. And we have found a lookout to put in our hand. So the lookout, local perception check, recharge to add a d4, recharge to examine the top card of your location, or discard to explore. This exploration, you may evade your encounters. So we will have Sione move over to the cave and end her turn. Drawing up to 6 cards. Getting a blessing and acid arrow. For Mary's turn, advancing the hour, you may avenge by discarding a card. Take a look at the next card, which is a Deathbane light crossbow, needing a dexterity ranged. To obtain, our dexterity is a d6. So no way we can get this card, so it will just go away. And with 1 card left, we know that's a fight. We'll go ahead and ride in on our horse, discard to explore. This exploration on your first check, adding a d4. So we know there's going to be a d4 on this. Hey look, we found a champion. So due to our scenario, before we encounter the champion, we must summon the ancient skeleton. So immune to cold, mental, poison, but vulnerable to bludgeoning. Before acting, either recharge a divine card or suffer 1 combat damage. Well, that's not nice. So we do not have a divine card. So we will suffer 1 combat damage. But we don't want to use this because that would prevent us from using our two-handed weapons. So for our damage, we will just drop our shot glaive and take a swing. Needing a 13, the D12 plus another D12, and we will be adding 3 to this roll. So we need to get at least a 13. So we have 15 showing, so a total of 18. So we've defeated the ancient skeleton. Now we get to fight the champion. We'll need a 12 for this. Before acting, succeed at an intelligence, craft, disable, or perception 4+1 check, or suffer 1d4 poison damage. This thing's going to kill us. So intelligence is a d6, so there's a chance. Crafting, disable, and perception, we don't have those skills. So we need to roll a d6, needing a 5 or better. And we have a 5. So we passed the before. Now we need to get lucky with the next attack with no blessings. I don't think. Yes, we could have a blessing if needed. So we have 2 d12s, adding 3. We will just go ahead and go with the 2 d12s. Getting a 12 plus 3, which would be 15, which is enough to defeat this. So then we get to attempt to close this location. Just turn this one on the side. Succeed at a strength or melee 5 up check, so we need a 6. Kind of want this to happen. So we're going to bless this with Sione. So we get 2 d12s. Probably going to be overkill, but I've been pushing my luck recently. So yep, got a 20. So this location is closed, and we will move Amiri over. 2 cards in hand. We'll end our turn and draw a blessing and a soldier. On to Sione's turn. For the hour, when you check against an animal or elemental card, add a d4. Exploring, we found an animal, so we're going to get a d4 to this check. Need wisdom survival. Our wisdom is a d6. So looking for 6. We got a 4 plus 2. So we have acquired another ally. In a local combat or survival check, recharge to add a d4. You can discard to move, then you may explore. This exploration on your combat or survival checks, add a d4. If you are this card's owner, recharge it instead. You may not use this power during an encounter. Let's see what we have here. We have 6 cards in hand. Possibly a lot of searching to do, so we'll just call this a turn. And go back to Amiri. On your check against an outsider card, add a d4. So if we're lucky, this will be an outsider card. But it's not. So it's a wisdom divine check to obtain. Our wisdom is a d6 plus 1. So we have a 5, so we've just obtained a blessing, which we will go ahead and use to discard to examine the top card of your location. Then we may explore. So examining, we found a demonling, immune to electricity and poison, resistant to attack. Before acting, succeed at a wisdom or perception 5 check or suffer 2 poison damage. If undefeated, suffer the scourge poisoned. So not making up my mind yet. Let's see here. So oddly enough, our axe is not keyword attack. So before acting, succeed at a wisdom or perception 5 check. So that is a d6 plus 1 for us. Or suffer 2 poison damage. Yeah, it's hard to have a two-handed shield and a two-handed weapon, so we're going to bless this check here. So we'll have 2 d6s plus 1, needing a 5. So glad we blessed that. So we have succeeded at the pre-damage attempt, or pre-attack. So now, with a great axe, we will get the 2d12s plus 3. Looking for an 8. So we have 18. So we've defeated the demonling. And nothing else triggers. Let's see here. Could recharge to add a d4. We'll go ahead and call it a turn and draw up to our Armor of Insults. Display. While displayed, when you suffer combat damage, you may recharge to reduce it by 2. When you suffer any damage, you may bury to reduce it to 0. So we'll go ahead, on our next turn, we'll definitely display that card. So on Sione's turn, on your check against an undead card, add a d6. She's been doing good with keywords. Not an undead card. Dexterity Stealth of 8 to acquire an Cape of Escape. But with our dexterity, there's no way we can get to 8, and I don't have any cards to bless. So the Cape of Escape has escaped. Let's see if any of our other cards will help us explore. We'll send our lookout out to discard to explore. This exploration, you may evade your encounters. So we need dexterity acrobatics or wisdom perception of 8. So our dexterity is a d6 plus 1. If undefeated, we'll suffer d4 combat damage, and entangled, then banish this barrier. If defeated, we may explore again. So we are rolling a d6, hoping for a d6, and nothing to bless that with. That's pretty close. Not really. So we have failed. Suffer 1d4 combat damage. Getting 3 combat damage. We can reveal this to reduce that by 1. And we will lose these 2 cards for the rest of that damage. Pit will be shuffled back into that deck. And we will draw up to 3. It's a good thing we've got some healing because we only have 2 cards left. Things are not looking good for us. So for Miri, no effect for this hour. Top card is an Evoker. So either combat would be 12 or intelligence arcane of 8. This monster gains the trait and all damage is whatever we roll on that. Before acting, a random local character suffers 1 damage. After acting, suffer 1d4 damage. So first the d6. Rolled a 5, so damage is force, and it has the trait of force. Forgot to play this earlier, so I'll go ahead and suffer those consequences. For our damage, we'll just go ahead and discard our shield because it hasn't been helping us with our weapons. Then we'll use our great axe for 2d12. Go ahead and bless this. Actually, no, we won't. Her life is getting too low to do any of that. What we will do is recharge our soldier so that we can add a d4. And we are looking for a 12. So we have 15, 18, total of 21. It is defeated, but after acting, we will suffer 1d4 damage. So somehow I need this to roll a 0. But it rolled a 4, so we'll take all the cards in hand and discard those for damage. And that will definitely end our turn. We will draw 4 cards, 1 left. And I believe this encounter is about over. So for Sione, on your check against a spell, add a d4. You will take a look here on a Magic Chains shirt. Constitution Fortitude check. It's a d6. So there's no way we can obtain this, so we'll just discard it. And in turn, so that we don't have to draw any more. Well, actually, no, we do have our Staff of Minor Healing. We'll recharge to heal a local character. So, recharging, shuffle our discard pile, take a random card to put back in our deck, and then shuffle our deck. And draw a card, which is a guide. All right, on to Mary's turn. If you're at a wild location, you may discard a card to explore. Exploring. Found a shrieky plant needing wisdom perception or stealth survival. Our wisdom is a d6. Well, survival will be a d6 plus 3. So that is what we're doing. We didn't examine, undefeated, summer, and encounter a monster. Alright, with a d6 plus 3, we're looking for a 6. One plus 3 is 4, so we failed this. Undefeated, summer, and encounter a monster. That monster is defeated, banish this barrier. So we'll go through our monster stack. On top we have a zombie. So we need an 11, immune to mental and poison. So we need an 11. Using our glorious Warhammer, which will give us a D12 plus a D8. Needing an 11. So we got a 12 plus a few more, so we defeated the monster, which means we've defeated the barrier. We'll go ahead and display our chain shirt. Ending our turn, drawing our last card. And then on to Sione. No effect for this blessing. take a look in the cave and find our henchman, which is the kobold horde. So diplomacy of 8 or combat. If not defeated by at least 4, suffer 1 range combat. So our diplomacy is a d12 plus 2. Or combat would require us using a card. And I think that's better because we might be able to heal again. So we've got arcane plus 2d4 or arcane of 2d4. Lightning touch it is. So we've got d12 plus 2d4 plus an additional 2. Looking for an 11. Okay, whew. That was a 1. It's a 7. So we've got 10, 13, 14, 15. So we have defeated the horde, which means we can attempt to close the cave. So for that we need to summon and defeat the danger. So our dex is a d6 plus 1, and disable is something we don't have. So we are a d6 plus 1. Good timing. On a local check, discard to bless. If the hours level is 0, which it is, we can recharge this instead. So we get another d6. This card will be recharged at the end of the turn. See if we've got something else to help. We do. Our guide, on a local check to close our guard, recharge to add a d6. Got another d6 coming in here. So with 3d6, we're trying to get a 9. And we succeeded. So we have closed this location. Possibly. So we'll look through this and see if the villain is in here, which it is. So all the other cards will be removed. And we know where the villain is. So this card will be recharged and we will draw up to our hand size of 6. So in order for this to work out right, we need to last another round with this character to either close this location this turn or stay here to guard it so that Sione can hopefully kill the big baddie again. These cards are going to be removed. So for Amiri, when you would discard a boon to bless dexterity or a charisma check, you may recharge it instead. We will explore here. Best thing either that or the henchman, so we can possibly acquire, which would give us a little bit of life at least. So a strength melee check of 8 or more. On a d12 plus 2. So 7 plus 2 is 9, so we've acquired a quarterstaff of vaulting. So we're above our hand size, so we'll go ahead and use our soldier to discard to explore. This exploration on your strength and melee checks, add a d4. So taking another look, we find the story bane, which is a trap, which is not our strong points. So dex, acrobatics, perception, or craft disable. So we've got dexterity. No acrobatics, no perception, so we're rolling a d6. We need a 9. May have just messed up here. Before acting, each local character suffers 1 fire damage. Undefeated, each local character suffers 1d4 fire damage. Alright, so we have, you suffer any damage, you may bury to reduce to 0. So we are going to have to bury this card. Let's see. Need a 9 on a d6, which is not going to happen. Hey, we got a 9. So with that, undefeated, each local character suffers a d4. We take 4 damage. It's all the cards in our deck. Go to draw up, and we can't. So Sione has passed on to the afterlife. We will bury all her cards. In order for her to come back, she has to spend at least 1 hero point, which she does not have. So she is dead, dead, dead. So now it's all up on Sione. And she knows what's there. So she will attack Kobold Sorcerer. Needing a 12 before acting, suffer 1 acid damage. And we need this to have an attack trait. For the acid damage, we will lose our Sage. Then we will use Force Missile to do Arcane plus 2d4. Needing a 12, and we will be able to add 2 to this roll. So we have a total of 10 there, plus our 2 is just enough to defeat him, which will automatically close the cave. And he will fly over here and get shuffled into this deck. The Inferno Trap will that will get shuffled back into this deck also. Oops, forgot her blessing. Was so distraught by Mary's death. Your bless check, which we didn't do, so it didn't have an effect. At the end of the round, this card will be recharged. Oh, actually, no, not just yet. We've got to do some healing. Recharge to heal a local character or card. So we will put this in there. Shuffle that up, and then the Force Missile gets recharged. And we will draw 3 cards. So no blessings. So we do have a bodyguard that's going to be helpful, and some spells to attack with. So Sione will move over here. Something else I've forgotten is when we defeat Kobold Storybane, summon and encounter an ally. That's happened at least twice. So we'll try to, but we'll just do this last one we did. So ally coming up, Wisdom, Fortitude, Survival of 5. So possible D6. We did not. Ally runs away. No one gets porcupined. And we'll go on to our next turn. On your check against an undead card, add a d6. Look on the top of the deck. It's a mob of undead. Check to defeat, none. Summon and encounter a random undead Storybane. Then a random character at each other occupied location summons and encounters it. If all summoned Banes are defeated, this barrier is defeated. Otherwise, it is undefeated. So we need to find an undead Storybane. Let's see here. So there's a white, zombie minions, and an ancient skeleton. So we will randomize those. And we are facing a zombie minions. So we need to do 2 combat checks. A 9, then we'll need a 12. Immune to mental and poison. If undefeated, each local character suffers 1d4 poison. So thanks to our blessing, we're at least getting a d6. So we will start off with Acid Arrow, which will get us d12 plus 2d4. Looking for a 9. So plenty more than 9, so that's round 1. So for round 2 of combat, we will use Lightning Touch, same dice, and we'd ignore its after-acting effects, which will be good if we don't defeat it. So looking for 12 this time. So 6, 10, 11, 12, 13. Whew. So, Storybane. That is not our henchmen, but they are defeated. End of turn. Both of these get recharged. We will draw 2 cards. And we did not receive any spells. So on her next turn, no effect. We're going to use a Staff of Minor Healing, recharge to heal a local character, a card. So we're recharging, shuffle our discard pile, and then put this card in our deck and shuffle. And then draw up to 6. Staff of Healing. On our turn, no effect. We'll use our Staff of Healing. Random card. Our deck. Shuffle our deck. Once again, end our turn. Draw up to 6. Get a spell. Looking through our turns here, we've got enough time if we can just keep her alive. On your non-attack combat check, add 1. And we have a Tinker. So so we have a Tinker. Charisma, Diplomacy, Disable of 6. Our Charisma and Diplomacy will be a d12 plus 2. And we get a 7, so a 9. We now have a Tinker. see. Well, since we'd have to drop a card, we'll go ahead and just use our guide then. Actually, we'll use this. Discard to explore. This exploration on your checks to acquire or your craft checks, add a d4. Exploring, we find the sorcerer. So before acting, we suffer an acid damage. Use our bracers to recharge to reduce by 1. Then we will use lightning touch, and we are definitely going to bless it. So we get a d12 plus 2d4, and blessing with another d12. So needing a 12. So good thing for this die, that's a 12. The others got us a total of 6 more. So 18 plus another 2. We have enough to defeat this sorcerer. So that is going to win us this scenario. And after acting, take us damage. We can recharge, reduce by 3. Well, we have, at the death of Amiri, fortunately she has a twin sister. It's probably going to come join us soon. Each character gets a hero point. Character gets the loot, ally riding Allosaurus. So the Allosaurus that Sione has just acquired. Recharge to move. You may not use this power during an encounter. On a local combat check, recharge to add a d6. Discard to explore. This exploration on your first combat check, add a d6. So one thing I have learned today is that when you gain a hero point, you save a hero point instead of automatically using it. So with that in mind, that will end this adventure. We'll return again next time to see if I'm still going with Amiri's sister or if we're going to pick someone else up. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please click on the like button below and be sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching.